Hey guys, so we're going to continue with part 4 of Tithes, and this is about the tithe of the tithes. That's a tongue twister. We're going to look at slide number 1 here, which is the biblical context versus modern use, which is what we're comparing here. What has NTCC done with this, and what is the biblical context? Why are churches in New Testament Christian church required to send to Graham a tithe of the tithes? What was the tithe of the tithes? Israelites gave a tithe to the Levites. The Levites then gave a tithe of that tithe to the priests. This was part of the Mosaic law and temple system. You can read about it in Numbers 18:21 through 28. And I have included it here. All right, let's just read some of it. Why not? Right? Might as well be all official. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. It's their inheritance. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as an heave, Heave, offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Therefore I have said unto them, among the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, When ye take of the children of Israel the tithes, which I have given you from them for your inheritance, it's going from the children of Israel, which Christians are not, to the Levites, then ye shall offer up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even a tenth part of the tithe. And this your heave offering shall be reckoned unto you, as though it were the corn of the threshing floor, and as the fullness of the winepress. So as if you had brought all this stuff in from your land yourself, which you can't, so you don't, but a way has been made through the tithe of the tithes. Thus ye also shall offer an heave offering unto the Lord of all your tithes, which ye receive of the children of Israel, and ye shall give thereof the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. To Aaron the priest, to the priest. Who the tithe of the tithes applied to? The command was limited to the Levites, then the sons of Aaron, aka the priests. This was for service connected to the temple. That's it. It was produce of the land, not wages. Leviticus 27:30, which says, And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd, or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. It's so exact. It's so specific. What the tithe of the tithes was not. The tithe of the tithes was not a command to the general population, or a model for church leadership hierarchy. That's such a stretch. A cash-based system with an envelope or otherwise. A loyalty or submission test. It's not any of those things. You can't, well, they do twist it to say what they want. But if you're someone who is fearful of God and fearful of doing something against what he says, like building a house and calling it the house of God, this is the Lord's house, bring the tithes unto the storehouse. No, that's so evil and wicked and against it all, against God. Call yourself reverend, all these things that we've been talking about. None of it is in here. And could it be the reason why there is no, and in a whole corporate structure, treating the gospel and Jesus like a product and selling it? How the tithe of the tithes is misused today. Here's some common modern claims. Pastors must tithe upward to leadership. That is precisely what goes on in NTCC. Ministers who don't send a tithe are rebellious. God requires this system today. That's a modern claim, and it's not true. The problem is old covenant rules and laws are being applied to the modern church. Tithe of the tithes did not transfer to the New Testament. Why it doesn't transfer? Number one, the Levitical priesthood has ended. It's done. Christ is the high priest. The law governing tithes was tied to that priesthood only. You cannot yank all of that out and drag it into the New Testament. And where do you find that, even for it to be such a weighty matter in these controlling churches? Manipulative, coercive, and scriptures, a couple scriptures to back this up. Hebrews 7:11 through 12. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron? For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law. Yeah, what he said. Hebrews 8:13. In that he saith, a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. New Testament giving looks different, and this is the compelling theme, if you will, through these slides, is that Christian giving is described as voluntary. Voluntary. You decide how much and when, according to ability, not compelled, cheerful, and directed toward needs. New Testament giving looks different, and we looked at 2 Corinthians 9:7 before. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. Acts 4:34 through 35. Neither was there any among them that lacked, for as many as were possessors of lands or houses sold them, and brought the prices of the things that were sold, and laid them down at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made unto every man according as he had need. Interesting. That's an interesting thought to ponder. Supporting ministers is not a tithing system. That's what it is in NTCC. That's all it is. Without the tithe, they are dead in the water, man. Without tithe, they're nothing. The New Testament teaches ministers may be supported, but it's not a professional ministry. It's not a full-time professional ministry. Professional meaning the way it's set up in America right now as a corporation and tied to a handout from the government. in the form of tax exempt and no accountability whatsoever. Man, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to run right out tomorrow and start a corporate church show? But no percentage is mandated. So if you say, you know what, this week, this guy who came through our city and shared the word with us or encouraged us, we're going to pay for his meal. We're going to give him some gas. We're going to maybe give him a little something for wear and tear. But that's it. There is no professional ministry. This is not, and the reason why NTCC sets it up this way is so they can point to their structure and say, this is why we get tithes. This is the back tithe. This is the tithe of the tithes, which goes upward to what? Who's the high priest? Who is it? Who are the Levites? Show us who they are. And why do they still exist? Let them tell you a reason for it. It's right there in the Bible. I believe we all saw it, and I believe many are seeing it, but they're afraid to ask because they've already been trained on what will happen if they ask questions. When I was looking up some things about the IRS and the forms that churches have to file and ones they don't have to file, I came across a lot of local churches in Pierce County, Washington, which is where the Graham headquarters is located, that tell their congregants. And what I didn't check at the time is whether they are independent churches, which of course Davis hated. He touted the likes of the Catholic Church and the Mormons. He liked them because they're corporations, because they're big, monolithic systems that rake in the money and build the big, beautiful cathedrals. For what? I believe, if you believe that there's a God, don't you think he just spits on the ground at that? What is he supposed to be, impressed or something when you do that? When you take money from people who worked hard for it and went without and sacrificed so you can drive around in your nice cars and be a luthier and have a 25 guitar collection and have a grand home and grand clothes and servants and the best of everything, the best parking spaces, the surprise birthday parties every year. Oh my God, oh, you guys are such a blessing. Thank you. Blah. It's disgusting. That's like if you read in the Old Testament about offerings that would come up to the nostrils of God's nose and it disturbed him, it made him ill. It's like that. That's what that is. It's the total, complete opposite. But we were all duped and believed it was somehow. How did we justify it in our minds? I don't know. But what helps is finding the truth. So sorry, I got so sidetracked. What I was trying to say about churches that I was looking up, I noticed some in Pierce County, just taking a little cross section, that many stated plainly. Maybe I would see a Facebook post about how they were going to have I'll call it a budget meeting for lack of a better term. And they would some of them would have right up on the screen there how much money came in, what it went out to. They also shared their Form 990. Now, a Form 990 doesn't even have to be filled out by churches that claim the same status as New Testament Christian Church, but they did it for the reason of transparency and accountability. They believed they were accountable to the rest of the fellowship because they didn't set themselves up as this hierarchy. Now, I still obviously have a problem with any corporate structure, because there is still a hierarchy, no matter how humble it may be, it's still there. But it's way, way different when the people who take in the money feel so supremely accountable to the people who give it, and they believe they have a right to know where it goes. So they will share their Form 990. They don't even have to fill it out. They don't even have to give it to the IRS. But they fill one out anyway. Why? To be above reproach, so that no one can lay a claim against them and say, oh, you're spending the money on this or that. And a lot of them were small independent groups. And that alone should tell you something. When you have that intimate relationship and you feel yourselves a fellowship, not a corporation, not a business. That's not a thing. It's never been a thing. It's a very, very modern thing. And I really hope to get into the history of all that, because I find it fascinating about when that began in this country. And so anyway, I did get sidetracked, but the point was that there are people there, right there near the headquarters in Washington of NTCC, that feel that accountability and that feel they should answer to God and to the people that give them money. And that's the absolute right way to think. And there is even a Bible way in the New Testament to approach the men of God, as they call themselves, when you have questions and how to go about that. But of course they're not going to teach you that. They're not going to tell you that. Why don't they? If you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to hide. Like, ask away. I'm an open book. But they're unfortunately not an open book. And you have to hunt down information to find it. If you find the truth in the very book that you say you believe in, then, and it doesn't measure up against what this group is doing, then you're at a crossroads. Then what do you do? Then what do you do? We've all been faced with that. Head on. What do we do? And so here, where I'm listening about supporting ministers is not a tithing system. The New Testament teaches ministers may be supported, but no percentage is mandated, and no storehouse or upward tithe is commanded. It's not. 1 Corinthians 9:14 says, even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. But where do you see that it's a lifestyle? It's not. It's not to go and plant roots in a big, beautiful home. It's to be on the move. It's to be on the move. And who doesn't want to take care of someone who's moving all around the world in pursuit of souls, and to present them the words of life, to save them from the pits of hell? It's not meant for you to tool around in a beautiful car and beautiful homes and luxury everything. Where do you see it? Show me. That's not what this means. Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. Hey, let's tear that apart there. That they which preach the gospel. I would say what's implied there is the truth. So these men don't preach the truth. The whole foundation of this organization is built on a lie, is built on a corporate structure for the purpose of what? To get your money to buy buildings and land. 1 Timothy 5:17 through 18. Just remember that. Which preach the gospel. Don't just run right over that. That's important. if they don't really preach the gospel, if they're putting out these devilish doctrines, these DDs, then guess what? They don't get to live of the gospel. If you don't preach it, you don't fall under 1 Corinthians 9:14. As I read it, in my humble opinion, what do you think? I'd be glad to hear it. 1 Timothy 5:17 through 18. Let the elders that rule well, preach the gospel, be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. So simple, so right there, so easy to read over. For the scripture saith, Thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, and the laborer is worthy of his reward. The laborer, you have to labor in the word and doctrine. In the word and doctrine. And elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor. You don't get to be an elder that rules well just because you say you are. Just because you have convinced people under lies and falsehoods that that's what you are. It can be proven from the Bible. So, the key question about the tithe of the tithes. If the Bible never commands, 1, Christians to tithe, 2, ministers to tithe upward, 3, a centralized storehouse system, why is the language still used as if it does? Why? The bottom line is the tithe of the tithe was real. It was specific. It was temporary. Temporary, not eternal, not forever. And it was tied to the Mosaic law. It was part of that. Back in the Old Testament. Christian giving is free, spirit-led, voluntary, centered on love and need. When Old Testament terms are reused without the proper context, recycled, they can sound biblical while teaching something entirely different. It's called twisting, mangling the scriptures. It's called lying. The New Testament calls believers to generosity, not compulsion. Not compulsion in any way. And again, thank you. This is my thank you screen. And coming next is early church giving. How Christians gave before tithing laws returned. And financial doctrine and control patterns. Yippee!